This content will be recorded and made available in an accessible, alternative format upon request. Hi, my name is Sarah Bordeaux, and this is your FAS 202 Milestone 1 tutorial, which your assignment is due this Sunday by 11:59 p.m. local time. This paper asks you to compare 3 works of art according to a specific theme, using skills you will acquire in this course throughout the term. The final paper is not due until the end of the term, but its construction is broken down into 3 stages. This tutorial is designed to provide guidance in writing your introduction. Specifically, it addresses how to introduce each of your works in a clear and concise manner, and how to relate them thematically to a contemporary example. This latter point means that we will touch upon how to choose a contemporary work and how to write a thesis. Now, what is meant by contemporary? Whereas the modern period, generally speaking, encompasses the late 19th to mid-20th centuries, and postmodern describes certain mid to late 20th century art. The word contemporary, for the purpose of this assignment, refers to work created in the last few years. Think post-2000. The more recent your contemporary example, the more relevant it will be to this assignment. As we move through this tutorial, I will refer to the FAS 202 Milestone 1 Guidelines and Rubric. I recommend having a copy handy as a reference. You can find it within our Blackboard shell by going to Assignment Rubrics in blue at the upper left and clicking on Milestone 1 Guidelines and Rubric. Now, I want to stress here that you should focus on the key elements of the overview. This paper is basically asking you to utilize skills that you've already demonstrated in this course. That is, showing how works of art share a common theme, which is what you did on the discussion board in Module 1, and relating older art to contemporary art, which is what you did in Module 2. Note that on page 1 of the Milestone 1 Guidelines and Rubric, you will find a list of suggested comparisons, or pairs of art and accompanying themes, from which to select your core comparison. This tutorial assumes that you will choose your initial pair from among these pieces. You must obtain approval from your instructor if you are interested in choosing works or a theme not on this list. I'm going to model how to write an introduction based on the prompts that you will find in MINDEDGE Module 3.40 Submission Milestone 1, where you should go to submit your assignment. The works that I am using are not on your list that you can choose from, and they're off limits for you to use in your paper now that I'm employing them in this example. So you can just see here the beginning of this page, 3.40, where you go through and submit each piece of Milestone 1. So it lays it out for you prompt by prompt, which is how we're going, which is how we're going to go through ourselves. And so we can analyze each element of the introduction. Alright, so the initial prompt reads, in the text box below, state the theme, artworks, and contemporary expression you have selected for this assignment. The theme I have selected for this assignment is national pride, as manifested in representations of the founding fathers of the United States of America. I will compare and contrast Horatio Greeno's 1840 statue of George Washington with Rudolph Evans's 1949 sculpture of Thomas Jefferson to demonstrate how this theme is expressed in national monuments. The contemporary expression I have chosen is the 2015 Broadway musical Hamilton by Lin-Manuel Miranda, currently playing at the Richard Rodgers Theater in New York City. The second prompt reads, in the text box below, write 1 to 2 sentences to introduce each work of art. Be sure to include the title, artist, date of production, the cultural origin or period of creation, and current location of each artwork. Note that you may have already addressed some of this info, which is fine. You don't have to repeat it in this text box. Greeno's statue of Washington, commissioned in 1832 for the 100-year anniversary of Washington's birth, is a classicizing representation of our first president that was intended for the U.S. Capitol Rotunda, but currently belongs in the collection of the Smithsonian American Art Museum in Washington, D.C. Evans' modern, realistic sculpture of Thomas Jefferson was designed in 1943 and completed in cast bronze in 1949 when it was installed within Washington, D.C.'s Jefferson Memorial. The third prompt reads, in the text box below, write 1 to 2 sentences that compare the two works of art and identify what larger point you hope to make through your comparison. Now, this part is important because essentially what you're going to be doing here is stating your thesis. Both sculptures are monumental representations intended to honor two of our founding fathers. Though Greeno chooses to memorialize Washington by enthroning him and fashioning him in a classical toga, whereas Evans renders Jefferson as an 18th century intellectual. These depictions speak to methods of remembrance that are both enduring and evolving, as exemplified by my contemporary parallel. Next prompt. In the text box below, write 1 to 2 sentences relating the artworks you've selected with the contemporary social or cultural expression of the theme expressed in those pieces. Miranda's musical reinvigorates arguably one of the most patriotic periods in our nation's history by casting those who won our country and nurtured it in its infancy, including Washington and Jefferson, as actors of multiple races. The musical is about the founding principles of this country and the people who shaped them, retold through a contemporary lens. So in summary, what have I done in my introductory paragraph? First of all, I have given my identifying information for my initial pair of works, as well as my contemporary parallel. I have identified my theme and explained how all three works relate to this theme. I have established my thesis, and just in case you missed it in there, my thesis sentence reads, "These depictions speak to methods of remembrance that are both enduring and evolving, as exemplified by my contemporary parallel." My thesis is saying that my paper will show how we express and witness pride in our nation, in part through the creation of art. What we can observe by looking at the contemporary example of Hamilton is one way of expressing who we are as a country now versus who we were then, 200 plus years ago, 100 or so years ago, even 50 or so years ago, when those memorials are made. And finally, what I've done in this introductory paragraph is I have established my contemporary expression. The main advice I would give you guys for picking a contemporary example that applies to your theme is that this is your chance to incorporate something relevant to you that you are enthusiastic about into your paper. I chose a musical because I happen to like musicals, but the field is wide open. Now you need to choose something that's relevant to the artworks and the theme that you have selected, but you can also be creative. Think about your favorite TV show or your favorite movie. One of the other examples I considered, and something that I'll be talking about in my FAS 201 tutorial, is an example from Game of Thrones. So you can really work with this idea of artistic expression and relate it to what you are interested in. And also, remember to think ahead. So this assignment is just about the introduction, but you will need to be prepared to incorporate this choice of contemporary expression into the rest of your paper. That is all for now. See you next time.